Our next work session is the proposed FY 2024 Utilities Operating Budget and FY 2024 through 2033 Capital Improvement Program work session. Mr. Hayes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Casey, it's my pleasure to present to you the Department of Utilities fiscal year 24 proposed budget. I'd like to recognize two of my staff members that are here today that worked so hard on this budget. We have Debbie Cosgrove, who's our financial manager, and Kathy Sobzak, who's our Assistant Director of Finance Administration. Really appreciate their work and the team's work on putting this budget together. I'd also like to start off, before we do the presentation, to thank this board for your continued support of the Department of Utilities, not only for our financial planning, but our support, your support of our employees in utilities. Your support is really integral into the success of the department, and I can't tell you what it means to our employees, and it really inspires our employees to find better ways they can serve our citizens. I can't tell you how many times staff members have come up to me for the time you've taken out of your busy schedules to come to our all-staff meetings to break bread with them or take tours of our water and wastewater facilities. So on behalf of the entire department, I do want to thank the board for that. Our mission and goals in the Department of Utilities really sets us apart from other utilities across the nation, as noted by a number of accomplishments in the department, including some of the most competitive utility rates, recognition for high-quality water and wastewater services, and that AAA bond rating that we hold in utilities. Some very impressive statistics that the general fund has on the AAA bond rating. Chesterfield Utilities is only one of 11 water and wastewater utilities in the entire nation that has a AAA bond rating. To give you an idea of what the power of that AAA bond rating does for us, in 2015, when I first became director, we refinanced all the department's debt and got a true interest rate of 1.1%. That's currently on our debt right now, so very, very powerful. The inflationary challenges that Chesterfield County faces are the same challenges that the rest of the nation's utilities are facing, but we feel like we're in a much better position to address those inflationary challenges for a couple of reasons. One, our strong in-house technical expertise, but more importantly is our long-term financial planning. Most utilities across the nation may have a 3-year or a 5-year CIP. In Chesterfield County, we have a 10-year water and wastewater financial plan and rate model. In addition to that, we're one of the only few utilities that actually has a rate stabilization reserve. That reserve contribution is based on the annual depreciation of our assets. The fund was originally established in 1995, and that we were contributing 50% of our annual depreciation of all our assets into that fund. We currently increased that through the years, and I'm happy to report that we're currently contributing 100% of our annual depreciation into that fund. That fund can only be used for replacing aging infrastructure, which is a huge challenge across the nation. It's important to remember that depreciated asset value replacement value is typically 2 to 3 times what the depreciated asset value is, but that funding allows us to have some funding and also the bonding capacity to be able to replace the infrastructure to ensure our customers have reliable service and safe and high quality services. In Chesterfield County, an average residential customer uses 7 CCF, that's about 5,250 gallons of water every month. Our cost of service analysis is indicating we need a slight rate increase in our commodity charge, which is our volume charge for both water and wastewater. On the water side, we're proposing a 7-cent increase in our commodity charge per CCF. 1 CCF is 748 gallons, so 7 cents per 748 gallons. And on the wastewater side, a 13-cent per CCF. We're also asking for a 40-cent increase on our water capacity charge, which is the fixed component of our water rates. Based on those proposed rates, an average residential customer would see an increase in their monthly bill of $1.80, which is 2.96%. We are not proposing any increases on our water or wastewater connection fees this year. We like to benchmark with other localities in the region to make sure our rates stay competitive. This is a benchmarking chart where we used our proposed fiscal year 24 rates and compared them to other municipalities' current rates. The green on the chart is wastewater, the blue is water, and you can see the total on the top. So with our proposed rates, an average residential customer's monthly bill based on both water and wastewater would be $62.51. And you can see the rates of other municipalities in the region, and it shows we are extremely competitive. I have spoken to each of the directors from these municipalities, and they all are going to anticipate increases this year. So our rates will even be more competitive once they have their proposed fiscal year 24 rates. Mr. Chair?
A question on this slide, and maybe you can answer it, or maybe Dr. Casey can answer it. You know, in Chesterfield, we hold our utilities department pretty much as a separate entity in the sense that you manage your rates and you manage your money, and it's all done in-house here. The other jurisdictions, do they do it the same, or do they put all their money that comes in from their rates into their general fund and then just disperse it out? Do they do the same operation we do?
So great question. So Chesterfield Utilities is a true enterprise fund, meaning that all of our operations are supported by the revenues, and we do not receive any tax revenue. We actually will pay for services that the general fund provides us. We pay for attorney office salary. We pay for the services that HR provides us. So we pay for the service much like a small independent business would. I could say that all of the utilities on this list do operate as an enterprise fund. What you'll find is some of the smaller utilities that are just starting up, they're not financially able to act as an enterprise fund because the rates would be so high. So a lot of times they are supported by the general fund. But I can tell you all the utilities on this slide are enterprise funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hayes, while you're on that slide, 'cause I do think it's a good point, because when we say, we've talked about the general fund and being mindful of the tax burden of people, it really is the complete circle. We got to be mindful of the entire bills that people strike checks to the treasurer of Chesterfield County, of which this is one that is done 12 times a year or 6 times a year in bi-monthly cycles. But just to give quick math, and it's very quick math, but a $300,000 house, every penny, if you will, of the tax bill is about $30. 1 cent of our 92 cents, 91 cents per. So if you think about, if we have a $20 differential per month based upon us and another locality, that's $240 over the course of a year of less expenses the household's incurring in writing checks to the treasurer of Chesterfield County. $240 a year divided by the equivalent rate of a penny of 1 cent is again equivalent to an 8 cents differential in our tax rate for that. George keeps those two worlds completely separate, and I agree, but I'm trying to do the quick math of households writing, it's still the same person, treasurer of Chesterfield. And I just think at some point in time we may need to look holistically at that and recognize, especially utilities, are bringing down the overall household burden of a bill to the county. And I'm excluding even the meals tax differential that exists in many other places for which people don't write those checks or incur those costs when they go out and eat.
That's an excellent point, and we're proud as the Department of Utilities to be part of that program that makes Chesterfield the best place to live, work, and play. And so we're excited to be part of that and a positive influence on our citizens. One thing I'd also like to update the board on, although we're very proud of our rates and how affordable they are in the region, we do understand, especially with all the inflation challenges that are with our public, there are some households that do still struggle to pay their bills, even if the water bills is the lowest in the region. And so our staff really do a good job of reaching out and trying to find programs to assist those low-income households throughout the county. And I want to give you a quick update on one of the programs that we proactively sought out and started participating with in October. The state actually has a temporary program. It's only temporary because it was only funded once. I think they got $22.8 million. It was given to the Department of Social Services, the State Department of Social Services, to assist low-income households with water assistance. It's called the LIWAP program for short. Chesterfield County proactively worked with Department of Social Services. I actually, as I'm on a board for a state agency, assisted them with coordinating with the other utilities to roll this program out. They actually hired a private company called Promise Incorporated, who is doing an exceptional job on rolling this money out to the households that need it. Chesterfield County, very surprisingly, we joined in October. We work very closely with Promise on administrating these funds. We have, since October, helped out 608 households at a whopping $342,000. The average reimbursement is in the $560 range. Some of the customers received the maximum. in Chesterfield County, which is $2,500. The interesting thing about this program is they took away a lot of the red tape, which allows the money to flow quicker. If you are eligible for any state funding program like SNAP or things like that, you automatically qualify for this program. Part of the success is my staff's work in working with this company, Promise. Every week, we download customers who are delinquent on their bills, submit those to Promise. Promise proactively compares those customers to the database they have at the state and can proactively reach out to those customers to let them know that this assistance is out there. In addition to that, we have information on our website, and also if a customer gets behind on their bill, we hang a courtesy notice in Chesterfield Utilities on the door. We've been including that flyer of this LIWAP program to those customers, and it's been a huge success in Chesterfield County. I would like to tell customers the program's still active. I just talked to Promise 2 weeks ago. They're about halfway through the funding, but funding is still out there. If they're interested in the program, please go to our website, or if you just go to your web browser and type in Virginia LIWAP, you'll see the Promise logo come up with the Department of Social Services, and you can apply through there. And because we actively participated, Chesterfield County Utilities is in the drop-down box as one of the utilities that participates in the program. So huge success story. I can't say enough about working with Promise. They're doing an excellent job on getting the money out the door to where it's needed the most. For our total operating budget is $96.4 million. That's a $7.7 million increase. And most of the increases are increase in cost and inflationary increases. For our operating budget, we have three categories: operating, personnel, and capital outlay. Diving into the operating first, we're seeing significant increases, $2.6 million in our operating supplies and maintenance, also $3.3 million in purchased water, purchased wastewater treatment, and also the cost of chemicals and electricity. So about $5.9 million of that 7.7 total is in operating. So that's the vast majority of the proposed increases in the budget. Just to dive down a little further, 85% of the water in Chesterfield counties is purchased through ARWA or the City of Richmond. ARWA, for example, supplies us 60% of our water. ARWA is seeing the same increases in chemical and electrical costs. At their board meeting, they proposed a 7% increase for Chesterfield County. On the purchased water treatment costs, same thing is happening. Dr. Casey and I attended the South Central Wastewater Authority board meeting. They just rebid all their chemical costs. Chemicals are a huge component of wastewater treatment. Chemical costs came in at 45% higher on the recent bid. And so they're proposing on the wastewater side a 7.7% increase. We're seeing similar costs in our treatment processes for chemicals. Our chemical costs are up about 28%, and our electrical services costs are up about 16%. On the capital outlay, that is the smallest component of our total operating budget, but it's the one that fluctuates the most because that's where we replace a lot of the larger pieces of equipment we have. This year, we're budgeting for a new air vacuum excavator. That's an excavator that soft digs. As we densify in Chesterfield County, we have a lot more utilities in the same corridors, and we're finding challenges when we have to repair and maintain our utilities to get down to those without damaging other utilities. This will allow us to soft dig around utilities and get our customers in service when we do have any kind of breaks. We have a replacement construction truck. A skid steer is going to our wastewater collection section to help clear easements. And then this is the category we also refund for requested oversize and offsite pipe for our developments. On the personnel category, we stand at $31.6 million. We mirror the general fund on the classification and comp study phase 2. We're looking forward to that so that we can fully implement that, including all our staff, like administrative support staff, is all on phase 2, and they're really the thing that keeps the utilities department going from day to day, so we're excited about the phase 2. We also mirrored the annual merit increase of 2%, and with the growing customer base and also the increased and existing regulations, we're asking for 5 positions this year. 4 of them are plant operator positions. We're asking for 2 operator positions at the Addison Evans Water Treatment Plant for the day shift. We're asking 1 operator position out of Proctor's Creek Plant, and then we're asking for 1 operator position at Falling Creek in our maintenance section. We're also asking for 1 water quality compliance technician, which will be housed in our pretreatment section. They'll mainly be working with our businesses on our FOG program, our fats, oils, and grease program. and educating those businesses on how to properly trap that fat, soils, and grease so it doesn't end up in our collection system and end up with sanitary sewer overflows that damage the environment. This employee will also, if we do have a sanitary sewer overflow, make sure that corrective action is taken, and if that wastewater reaches state waters, we're obligated to report that to DEQ, and they'll follow up with the reporting requirements for those sanitary sewer overflows if we do have them. We are requesting an increase in our portable meter deposit charge from $750 to $1,800. That's a very significant increase, but we haven't had an increase in 18 years since 2005. It's in, these meters are basically used on construction sites where there's no water, so they can get water to construct. Also, it's used for if someone has a water truck that they need to fill up, they'll use these meters. Again, it's important to remember that these deposits are refundable, so when they return the meter to us, they get the deposit back. We're having a little challenge right now on getting our meters back because they're priced so low. A new meter costs in the neighborhood of $1,500. We put a slight increase on that to bring it up to $1,800 to encourage them to bring the meters back to the utilities department. Our capital.
I know some of them last up to 20 years and have to be traded in.
Yes, yes. Personal experience, right?
Quick question. So a company could, for example, put a deposit in for $1,800 and just hold on to it and keep using it? Or is it cheaper for them to just buy their own?
So they're required to put the $1,800 deposit, and then they have to get the meter read once a month, and we bill them for that usage. If we don't, we hold the deposit, and it's a challenge to try to get that meter back. This will make it a little easier to get the meter back. Our capital project spending plan is by far the most significant long-term financial spending that we have in the utilities department. In sharp contrast to the general funds budget, our rates are truly driven by our capital projects because they're so expensive. Utilities, water and wastewater utilities in general, is very capital intensive, and this is really what drives our rates. How we pay for our capital improvement program is the use of revenues, the use of reserves, and then we also have to issue bonds at times to pay for them. On this pie chart, we actually broke out all the categories over the next 10 years that we're going to spend $923 million as planned on investment into our infrastructure. And as you can see, about half of it is on pipes, pump station tanks, and payments to the city of Richmond for infrastructure that supplies Chesterfield County with its water. And the other half, interestingly, is for plants. That kind of jumped out at me that we're investing so much in our water and wastewater facilities. When I dove into the numbers a little more, what's really interesting is that 60% of that plant number is for expansion revenue. And so as our wastewater plants are nearing capacity, we have plans to expand the Proctors Creek from 27 million gallons a day to 54, which would be 90 years of wastewater supply for Chesterfield County. Over the next 10 years, we have planned $155 million investment in our Proctors Creek plant to start that phased expansion of the plant. On the water side, as we're nearing capacities on water supplies, you all know we have a proposed fourth water supply, the Appomattox River supply. Over the next 10 years, we have planned $118 million investment in that new supply. Happy to report that we're nearing the end of the permitting process for that. In December, we were successful in getting our Virginia Water Protection Permit from DEQ, which was the heaviest lift for us. Tuesday, we're hoping to get our VMRC permit. I have a meeting with the commission on Tuesday down in Hampton. And then our last permit would be the Corps of Engineers permit, which we're diligently working with the Corps to get that permit. The next series of slides, I just wanted to take you through some of the projects we have, and all these projects are a little bit unique. First, we continue to invest in our Addison Evans Water Treatment Plant to ensure that the Swift Creek Reservoir and the Addison Evans Water Treatment Plant is a long-term water supply for Chesterfield County. Mr. Carroll, Mr. Winslow, you attended a public meeting last night where utilities presented the flood wall project for the Addison Evans plant. That $24.7 million project is not included in these, and it's important to note in the flood wall project we were able to obtain a FEMA grant for $8.7 million, which will significantly push that project forward. But these projects and these other investments at Addison Evans add up to $14.1 million. The treatment plant was built in 1967. It's a 12 million gallon per day conventional treatment plant. It has 4 water filters. When we take one of those filters offline to backwash it, we lose 25% of the capacity of that facility. So we have plans to build 2 additional filters so that we can have the full capacity, the full permitted capacity of the plant if needed. That just goes back to the reliability and redundancy if we were to have issues in the system to have the most capacity of each of our sources. Though I'm not going to have a test for you, but I know a lot of you recently have been on a tour at the Addison plants, and you should know what a flocculator and effluent launder is. But that's the portion of the process where we remove solids. We actually use a chemical called ferric, which is very corrosive. The old 1967 launders and flocculators are made of steel, and they slowly have been corroding over the years. We're going to replace those with brand new PVC and fiberglass. We also have a generator project. The generator right now was installed in 1990. It only operates half the plant, so if we lose power, we only can do 6 million gallons a day, not the full capacity. We're going to go ahead and install a generator that can do 100% capacity. And then last, we have the lab exhaust and HVAC system. That was for our state-certified laboratory that was built in 2000. It's a very antiquated system out there. We're going to replace it with a state-of-the-art system, and most importantly, we want to make sure that our employees are safe as they use chemicals to test that water to make sure it's safe for our customers, that our employees are also safe. And that's over a 3-year period. We plan to phase in all those projects. This project, the wastewater treatment plant phosphorus removal, touches both Falling Creek and our Proctor's Creek plants. There was a lot of discussion on the general fund's budget in the state. This also ties into the state, and out of all the projects we have, I think the biggest frustration for our financial staff are projects like this, and I'll tell you why. So this project was not planned. And our financial planners will tell you, if you're a project manager in utilities and you come with a project, you better be putting in the out years. You better be putting in year 10. We don't want to hear year 1 to 3 because it really has a drastic impact on rates, and you don't have that time to slowly adjust rates to be able to pay for this project. Well, the state has a water quality model that they use, and everybody knows about nutrients in the Chesapeake Bay and reduction of nutrients. They periodically run this model and make tweaks to it and get different results. They recently ran the model and found that the Middle James River, so this would be a local water quality issue, not a bay issue, they had concerns with the level of phosphorus that could be discharged to the Middle James would create chlorophyll A issues. So chlorophyll A is simply the green pigment that you see in plants and trees, but it's an indicator also in water of algae. And so algae is harmful to aquatic life and the environment, so the concern is there's too much phosphorus could be in the Middle James that could create algal blooms that could impact the environment. So what the state did is they had a hearing, and they amended the water quality management planning regulations. It actually became effective December 21st, 2022, and the compliance date was January 1st, 2023, giving us a week and a half to comply with reducing our waste load allocation 60%. So this not only impacted Chesterfield County, but impacted 7 point source discharges on the Middle James. And a point source discharger is basically a wastewater treatment plant. So we were 2 of the 7 in the James. DEQ realized that this was going to be a challenge for utilities, and they said, listen, if you need to have capital improvements at your facility, you can submit us a compliance statement, and your deadline, the latest could be is January 1st, 2026. We submitted that compliance deadline statement and got the extension to 2026. We're currently going to design, we remove phosphorus from our wastewater plants by precipitation. We put chemical in and precipitate it out. We now need larger chemical tanks, larger pumps, but this was not a planned project that we had to throw in the first year of our rate model, which impacts our rates more than if you were to throw it in the out years. The last project is our Turner Road Pump Station project. This is actually a wastewater pump station. We will design, and it's in the Dale District, Mr. Holland. We design our wastewater pump stations to blend in with the community. This pump station was built in 1988. It's a 14.4 MGD pump station. The project's going to replace the 2 original pumps and expand it with 2 more pumps, giving us a capacity of 26.4. We're also going to upgrade the electrical system, the bridge crane, and generator. This project has been ongoing, and we anticipate the completion of the construction in 2025. With that, we are extremely excited about the state-of-the-art projects we have in utilities, but we're also very proud of our past achievements. Some of them listed here on this slide. We do, again, appreciate the board support. This is the first step in the public process for our budget. On your agenda tonight, we actually have an item that requests the advertisement of our proposed rates, and then also a public hearing on March 22nd, followed by a scheduled budget adoption on April 5th. And with that, I thank the board for your support and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things I wanted to mention was that how important it is not only to be a good caretaker of the money, but how important it is to be a good caretaker of our resources. And I wanted to appreciate you and your staff, and also just because I had a neighbor who called me in a panic because there was water, they may have hit a line, they weren't sure, and I made a couple of phone calls, and your staff was out in less than an hour. And what that says is for the community, I mean, here was a holiday weekend, and staff was out and had that taken care of. Water was turned off, we could pinpoint what was going on, and how important it is that you and your staff, how amazing you all are to caretake the water. And if I could say something to the community, is that one of the ways to continue to save is to be very careful and conserve our water, because we know what's happening out on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. This is not a guarantee, and how important it is to not take it for granted. So thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll be sure to relay those comments to the employee that responded over the weekend.
Mr. Chairman.
That's all.
I just wanted to say, there are really, really excellent employees, and then there are just that level right above in Chesterfield County, and you can tell that you're in that really select group. When I come out of a meeting last night and I hear comments like, that gentleman not only works for the county, but he loves what he does to a point of obsession over detail that would surprise most people. And knowledge and, of course, experience just shines through everything you do, George. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow.
To add on to one of your story, recently when I was at the all-employee meeting, I learned that there was a citizen that called in at 1 a.m. hoping that utilities would show up maybe the next day, and utilities showed up at 1:40 a.m. Completely amazing, that citizen, with the extra efforts that your staff has gone to recover items for citizens that have lost them. I would say we can't always find them. So, but the fact that we have found a diamond ring in a soccer ball that was just as valuable to a young man, it does say a lot for the utilities department. The fact that we're able to hold the connection fees this year, and to have a less than half of what inflation would call for increase proposed, says a lot for the organization and the way it's run, and the fact that we are significantly less than the jurisdictions around us says even more than that. So, I tell y'all, I don't think you were there. I think you were out that morning, but sometimes I get tired of bragging on y'all, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Engel. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, George, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I think you do a tremendous job, your department and those here, outstanding job. One question I have, do you still have the rate stabilization fund?
Yes, we do.
You still have that, and
we're
you're
actually
using that?
contributing 100% of our annual depreciation into that fund. That's what's really producing dividends this year. That's why
Okay.
we're able to have a relatively low increase, is because we have that 10-year model and that rate stabilization reserve.
Well, I greatly appreciate that, and thank you for the outstanding work you do and the quality you do it at. I mean, you are, as you mentioned, unique, AAA utility.
That's right.
There's so few of those, and it makes a huge difference, as pointed out, when you go to borrow money.
Yes.
You get the very low rates, and those were astounding facts you mentioned. It's just outstanding. So great job, and my best to everyone in your department for the outstanding work you all do. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for sharing the great news about Chesterfield Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
I'm not sure what I can add to all that. That was pretty good. I appreciate the great presentation. And as always, appreciate the hard work and effort that the staff does. And, you know, it's an honor for us, quite frankly, to be invited to your all-staff breakfast and be able to talk with the employees and sit down and hear from them directly. So we appreciate, I personally appreciate that invitation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.